Good morning, and it's good to be back in my chilly office. I apologize yesterday for cutting out a little early because I had a tickle in my throat and I just couldn't talk very well. It's a little bit better today. Uh, it's just the rainy weather is. I'm a real wuss, a Southern California uh, guy. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the shocking truth about the Nine of Wands. Okay, but before we get into that, 50 years ago, right now, 50 years ago on November 14th, I was in, we were living in Costa Mesa in a little apartment. Uh, well, it was a detached apartment, a little duplexy kind of thing, only uh, a series of them. And after over a year, almost 2 years of letters back and forth between me and an unknown correspondent who just identified herself as Soror Morel uh, in Dublin, California, and I didn't even know where Dublin was. And uh, concerning my eventual membership and initiation into the OTO. I had gotten the address uh, on the promotional card of the Thoth Tarot deck, a very early, beautiful boxed edition of the Thoth Tarot deck. And I had concluded that I was really interested in initiation into the OTO because the OTO was the publisher of that deck or uh, had it published. And I was very interested in Aleister Crowley and things like that. And I was still really green behind the ears. I was only 20. I was what? I was 28 years old. And never met anyone that ever met Crowley, never met anybody who was into Crowley or anything else. Uh, and of course, I'd heard terrible, terrible things. And we were very, very poor at the time. I had, in 1972, I had more or less totally given up my music career, my recording career and such, because quite frankly, it was bad for my health. I enjoyed the excesses, let's say, of Hollywood musicianhood in those days, and I had a couple of really stupid entry level jobs, and we were very very poor. So I literally once we arranged for an initiation date that I would have to come to Dublin for to meet these people that I didn't even know their names. And so I had to take a bus, a Greyhound bus. And in order to even get the round trip bus ticket, uh, I had to sell my tape recorder. I had to literally sell a couple of what I considered good books, not Crowley books, but books that I knew I could get like $15 for, $20 for it at a antique bookstore up in Fullerton. And I had to take a Greyhound bus at midnight. So midnight tonight, 50 years ago. My brother had to drive me to the Greyhound bus station in Santa Ana, which was right across the street from the Orange County Jail. And guys that were just getting released from being in custody for whatever reason were also taking that same bus north. Some of them were going to San Francisco, some of them were going, but anyway, so I was sitting surrounded by guys that are just getting out of jail. I had about $5 extra to spend on this whole trip. And they said, I swear to God, man, give me $5. And it was so crazy. And uh, the I-5 freeway at night, uh, it's kind of an all night. If you leave at midnight, it's an all night trip. And I started to get all these doubts and stuff about what am I getting into? Constance doesn't even know the names of these people, All he's got is this address to a motel that I'm supposed to let the bus stop me at, drop me off. But anyway, I'll tell you more about it tomorrow because tomorrow night, November 15th, is actually the my 50th anniversary night of taking my Minerval initiation, and I'll talk more about that tomorrow. Today, I'm going to talk about the court card that rules the 10-degree or the 30-degree period that we're in right now. It's the Knight of Wands. And he rules that last the last 10 degrees of Scorpio. See, 20 degrees of Scorpio. Now there's a tarot card that goes with that last 10 degrees, 20 to 30 degrees Scorpio, and it's the Seven of Cups. Now that's the period we're in right now. Okay. Now I have something to say about the Seven of Cups, which is quite interesting. And it's kind of a digression here, but I just remembered I said something here we go. Crowley calls it debauch. The technical title is illusionary success. Crowley was definitely not a fan of the Seven of Cups. This is one of the worst ideas one can have. Its mode is poison. Its goal, madness. It represents the delusion of delirium tremens and drug addiction. It represents the sinking into the mire of false pleasure. There is something almost suicidal in this card, Crowley writes. Well, my interpretation of that was 7 martinis. Okay. Just look at this card if you can, and there's Crowley's, or the Harris version of it. If you can, yuck. What happened to all that great cup stuff up the tree of life? Doesn't sexy Venus like to show off in sexy Scorpio? She does. She likes to show off everywhere, I say. Venus, however, is not well dignified in Scorpio and is often embarrasses herself when she visits. Yes. Shouldn't she be happy in Netsock? Netsock's number 7 there. The sphere of Venus? Sure she is. She's so happy she's making herself sick. This is much too much of what was once a good thing. And this is this far low on the tree and this far off balance, because she's a 7 here on other pillar there. She's off balance. Let's see. This card seems like the next logical step in the abundance, luxury, disappointment sequence. Those are the cards that preceded. 3 martinis is abundantly enough. 4 is just the luxury of showing off. 5 is disappointing because it's not getting you high anymore. You're just getting smashed. But 7, oh dear. The 7 of Cups is a stumbling dash to the lavatory just moments after you thought you were being irresistible to an attractive stranger. Okay. But the other 2 cards that will be coming later in that 30-degree sequence are, and this is how it goes, 7 of Cups, but then it moves to the 8 of Wands, which is swiftness, then to the 9 of Wands, which is great strength. So the rest of the decans of the Knight of Wands sort of pulls us out of it. Okay. Of course, the trumps that represent the last 10 degrees of the death card, and then the first 20 degrees of the art card. So, but let's talk more about the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands is fire of fire. And you'll notice that the I Ching hexagram there, if you'd look that up, you'd see that it's hexagram number 51, which is called shock, or the arousing thunder. See, fire of fire. And let's see here. Here's what DuQuette says about that. And I'm reading from Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot. Representing fire of fire, the Knight of Wands certainly has the potential of being the strongest member of the court cards. He represents the Yod subdivision of Yod He Vav He. So he's Yod because he's a knight, and he's Yod because he's a wand. Fire of fire. However, it is well for us to remember that where court cards are concerned, representing something is not the same as being something. Harris's Golden Dawn description into a magnificent and thrilling image that almost leaps off the page. And if you recall, that's what it looks like. Harris translates the Golden Dawn description that almost leaps off the page. Did I say leap? Explodes is probably a better word. The forward thrust of the horse's mane and tail and the hair and beard of the knight suggests they aren't so much in the act of jumping as being blown from behind by some imaginably strong explosive force. It's the portrait of someone who's riding a rocket. And that can be very risky. If the rocket isn't aimed properly, he or she misses the target. If there's not enough fuel, he or she crashes. If there is too much fuel, the person explodes. But if everything goes well, It's the most spectacular success. Robert Fulton, Indira Gandhi, Robert Kennedy, Frank Sinatra, and Mary Queen of Scots were all Knights of Wands. Okay. So we see, if we're looking at this 30-degree period that we're in, that started on the 13th, yesterday, and goes all month, we're looking at sort of a complex, potentially dangerous, maybe even spectacularly dangerous time period. Now, I want us, before we stop here this morning, to look at that hexagram 51. Now, just moving from the absurd to the profound, we'll start with the absurd. The I Ching of Milo says this about 51. 51, the arousing, shock, thunder. Boo! Scared you, didn't it? It scared everyone else, too. Ha ha. That's only natural. When you've got your poop together, you should never really be afraid. Now, that's Milo's interpretation of a much longer and much more profound commentary. And I'm reading this morning from the I Ching, Book of Changes. It's the Wilhelm Baines translation, with an introduction by Carl Jung. Okay. And I'm reading from the second section, which has a little bit more to say. Now, the card right before this, or the hexagram right before this, number 50, is called the cauldron. And that cauldron at least brings to mind our art card, or our temperance card, in a way, out of that cauldron, alchemical cauldron. Okay. But anyway, here's the sequence. Among the custodians of the sacred vessels, that's, in this case, it was that cauldron right before, the eldest son stands first. Hence there follows the hexagram of the arousing. The arousing means movement. Now, if lightning would strike me right now, and that's our only augury for the time period we're in, a thunderous form of movement. Miscellaneous notes: the arousing means beginning, arising. This hexagram is one of the 8 in which the primary trigram, okay, that's the hexagram's made up of two trigrams. And in this case, it's repeated. It's the fire or the thunder trigram repeated, one on top of the other. It is formed by doubling the trigram Chen, which symbolizes the eldest son, the beginning of things in the east, the spring. It is also suggested by the image, which shows upward movement, electricity, thunder, making itself heard again in the spring. Here's the judgment. And believe me, it's the only hexagram that uses the term ha ha. The judgment. Shock brings success. Shock comes. Oh, oh. Laughing words. Ha ha. That's why Milo says, boo. Scared you, didn't it? Ha ha. Milo wasn't so stupid, okay. A little lazy, but not so stupid. The shock terrifies 100 miles, and he does not let fall the sacrificial spoon and chalice. In other words, the eldest son is doing a ceremonial act, a magic act for some reason or another. And there is a shock, a thunder, a boom, a boo. And he's so focused that he doesn't drop his instruments, as we say in the OTO. Commentary on the decision. Shock brings success. Shock comes. Oh, oh. Fear brings good fortune. Laughing words, ha ha. Afterwards, one has a rule. The shock terrifies for 100 miles. If one causes fear far and wide and has concern for what is nearby, one may come forth and protect the temple of the ancestors and the altar of the earth, and be leader of the sacrifice. Shock comes, oh, oh, is the exclamatory words mean first a frightened tiger, then a lizard running in fright hither and thither on the wall. Thus the meaning of fear became attached to the two onomatopic characters. The fear thus aroused makes one cautious, and caution brings good fortune. Laughing words, ha ha. The words are suggested by the sound of thunder and the sound like ah, ha. They are a symbol of inner calm in the midst of the storm of outer movement. The shock terrifies for 100 miles. This is the sound of thunder, which at the same time the symbol of a mighty ruler, suggested by the idea of the eldest son, who knows how to make himself respected by all those about him, yet is careful and exact in the smallest detail. The concluding sentence also refers to this. The Lord of the sacrifice is at the same time the Lord of the house or of the realm. In this regard, also the eldest son had his special task. The trigram chin means the coming forth of God in the spring, and also the reawakening of the life force which stirs again from below. And the image simply says, thunder is repeated, the image of shock. Thus, in fear and trembling, the superior man sets his life in order and examines himself. And that is my little comment on the Knight of Wands, the I Ching hexagram number 51, and the time period that we have just entered into yesterday. That will take us all the way to December 12th. Now tomorrow I'll probably have a little bit more to say about my initiation night 50 years ago tomorrow night. And until then, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will. Bye-bye.